Hi everyone, Roy Neary from Power Apps and TGG and Data Spinners. Today I'm going to show you an app I've put together to help inspire people with regards to the Hacks for Education that's coming up in September. So I'm going to dive straight in with this, and it's just going to be a straight demo of the app. So here is the app. It's got just 3 poems in at the moment. There's this one, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, Sea Fever. You can jump through into them, and then you can start the poem and you start reading it and through and so on. But I didn't want to look at that poem. I want to show you one done by myself. I'm just going to read the whole thing. So Elaine, I know that you'll be watching this on your big screen. Sit back, relax. There's about 20 verses, so it takes a while. And also a big shout out to Keith, Chris, Will, Louise, Elaine again, Megan, Lisa and Clara. I think you'll like this. So this is called Ogre's Journey. It's a poem that I wrote quite a while ago before I got into Power Apps, and it's a story about an ogre. So we'll see how it goes. So the ogre Grimnut approached the wood, club trailing behind. It was up to no good. He had a sore throat and was all of a blunder, and now searched the forest to stave off his hunger. There was a rumour, if you went deep inside, you would find tasty fairies and more besides. So when he went through the gathering gloom, hoping his stomach would be filled soon. The trees were great, their trunks were tall, but Grimnut was afraid of nothing at all. His club did drag over root and stone, and the ogre walked on, starved and alone. On he trekked deeper and deeper, through swamp and marsh, till the ground got steeper, and though the tracks wore the soles of his boots, no food did he find, just tiny red fruits. I'm going to jump out a little sec, move it into translation mode, and I'm going to check it out. Let's move this into French as well. Grimnut stopped and sniffed the air. The fairies were close, but he couldn't tell where. So he searched until he saw to one side a path that would take him to where the fair folk reside. He trekked and then passed through white flower fall, and then ducked under rocks made for someone less tall. Sunlight then fell on his grizzled face. He'd finally found their hiding place. Grimnut passed through a sunlit glade, and he spotted the sight of an elfin maid. Hunkering down, he wasn't seen by the winged fairy, all dressed in green. Pulling himself up, he grabbed his weapon. He would do this quick, in less than a second. But as he readied his deadly swing, the fairy shifted, and he noticed something. 4 sycamore seeds she held in her hands, tying them together with 9 silver bands. "What are you doing?" he said with a grunt. "I'm making some wings." She held them in front. "They're for a friend that's not here yet. I couldn't decide what it was I should get." "Nobody's ever given a present to me." "That's a pity, but I still think there's still time, you see." "It's too late, I'm starving and dying of thirst." "Drink this," she said, "don't fear for the worst." And with a wave of her glittering wand, she revealed the most wondrous and clear blue pond. The ogre bent down and drank his fill, and didn't stop his drinking until the pool was dry, his thirst was sated, whilst across from him the fairy waited. He said, "That's better, now I need to eat." "No, you need to sleep before such a treat." So he lay his head down and closed his eyes, and as he did, the fairy did rise. He awoke much later, cold and bare, lying on the bed with the coarsest hair. Looking around, he saw the fairy. She seemed much bigger, and no longer seemed wary. Beside him, a bunch of red berries lay waiting, with crumbs and coats. Might they taste amazing? He tried one out, and to his surprise, the fruit was so tasty, it lit up his eyes. I only eat meat, so how can this be? Things will be different. Now here, come and see. She refilled the pool with an elfin spell, and bid him come forward and look deeply as well. There he could see, in the glassy reflection, that changes were made in his grizzled complexion. No longer a face that was hardened as worn, but soul for now elfin, for he had been reborn. Does this please you? She said with a smile and a sigh. It does, but how can we live here, now you and I? I don't have wings whilst you're able to fly, so I cannot follow you up and into the sky. Oh, you're so very silly, I've thought of these things. I made them before, they were always your wings. And she fastened them on and held them on well before uttering the sounds of a magical spell. He flapped his wings and came off the ground. His eyes were smiling and he fluttered around. Where shall we go? And looked into her eyes. This way, said she. We'll watch the sun rise. The end. So that's the end of the poem. If you want to stop at this point, that's absolutely fine. I'm now just going to go a small bit under the hood. The app is available on the TDG Dynamics 365 Society website. I'll just fire that up here. So here we are on the Dynamics 365 Society website. If you go to the Power Platform Bank, you can click on it there and it takes you through to the page where you can see the downloads. If you look down a little further, you'll see that it's under this heading, Globally Accessible Poems. I'm now going to move back to the app itself. And the first thing I'm going to show you is that as far as data is concerned, there are no data connections that reach outside of this app. It's a completely standalone app, and it contains poems, which essentially is a table with all the poems in, all languages, which just is a relationship between the language codes and the language, and then a table with all the translations. Now, I've only done the translations for the one poem at the moment, but it gives people an idea that you can have lots of translations. So at the moment there are effectively 1,200 lines of translation, but I suspect that you can go to, well over the sort of, 2,000 normal limit that you have there. The other thing to note is that there's this admin instructions thing. I will probably work further on that, but it does give you the ability, if you want to get the Excel spreadsheet, you just click on Get Excel Spreadsheet, and it actually goes off to my place on. I've got some Azure Blob storage, and you can get the spreadsheet there. I'm just going to fire that up. And you can see here that there are two tabs, one with the poems. So there's Ogre's Journey, there's this Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening, and there are the translations, which is much more detailed. Now, I just need to make this a bit smaller. That's better. Now with the thing to note is that if you look on here, that you've got a verse with a line, 1, 2, 3, 4, but the translations are done on a verse by verse basis. So what you can see here, this is Ogre's Journey, and this is verse number 1. If I kind of simplify it a little bit to just look at, I don't know if I can do this at the moment, it's looking a bit strange, but you can that there are essentially 63 translations per verse, and you can see them all here. So as I say, I've only done it for one poem at the moment, but I did actually create this idea of a translation service that you can use. So I'm just going to jump onto that. So this is the translation service here. It doesn't quite work in perfectly yet. To begin with, it was producing a CSV file, and to be honest, it was really difficult to get it from there into Excel. So the idea is that what you do is you fill in this translation service request, and then you end up getting a spreadsheet back with the translation. So you would put your poem line in there, and there's your email address and so on, and some kind of summary. It could be Ogre verse 1 or something. But as I say, it's not working perfectly yet. The general idea is to get this Excel spreadsheet back that you can then push back into your spreadsheet. But I mean, it really is quite easy to use. So hope you've enjoyed this, everyone, all my buddies, and I hope this also gives people an idea about accessibility. And look, you know, if you've created an amazing app, like, make it available to the whole world and not just, you know, people in your own country, and you can do that obviously by making it multilingual. Okay, thanks guys, I'm going to say bye at this point, and see you again soon.